Assalamu alaikum. Can I give you something to watch?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And I just exhausted the totality of my Arabic.
Yeah.
So it's you guys should find it interesting.
Okay then.
So I would imagine we come from slightly different worldviews. I take it you're Muslim?
Yeah. I am.
Which sect? Well, not Wahhabi, because you're
Sunni.
so you're clearly here, so you're not Wahhabi.
Yeah.
So you're Sunni.
Yeah.
So where are you from?
I'm from Jordan.
Jordan, and you?
Jordan.
Yeah,
You're all from Jordan. I'm Todd.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Todd. Nice to meet you.
I know. I understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so you know,
You're familiar with all
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm a Christian evangelist, and so I spend a lot of time, because of the conversations that I have.
That's good.
I spend a lot of time studying Islam and
That's
Mormonism
really good.
and
That's
Judaism,
really
and so.
That's
So,
nice.
and your name is
Al.
Al?
Yeah.
No. What's your name?
Real name?
Yes.
Alfasal.
Alfasal.
Yeah.
And you are
Luma.
Luma?
Yeah.
Abdul-la.
Abdul-la?
He's a familiar.
Yeah, that's well. That's cliche. So what brings you guys to Iowa?
Well,
Education.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you on student visas? Are you
No,
from?
I'm
So you are citizens?
Yeah.
Were born and raised, or
No.
immigrated?
No,
Migrated?
my father was here,
Okay.
so like he stayed like for 10 years.
Okay.
He
Got the
get
nationality,
the
yeah.
nationality, and then he
Give it
can't
to
give
us,
it to us. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's it like being in Iowa? Where are you from then? In the States?
Well,
I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like
yeah, because you know we
We're used to-
travel a lot, so
Yeah.
we kind of use
Yeah. Iowa's a little different than the rest of the country. It's a lot more rural, and
Yeah.
people aren't used to seeing people that don't look like them. Right?
I understand what you
Right.
mean. Yeah, there's no much exposure here. I get
Yeah,
it.
absolutely,
That's
so-
true. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. I run into I live in southeast Iowa, so I'm not too far, but I do a lot of work in Rochester. Are you guys familiar with Rochester
Yeah,
at all?
Minnesota.
Yeah, I do a lot of work in Rochester, and there's a very large Muslim population there, predominantly from the Somali.
yeah.
Yeah,
Somali community.
I did notice that. Yeah.
And it's very funny because when you greet them, you know, with peace be upon you, and they're like,
Yeah.
"You talking to me?"
Yeah.
So, but well, I would encourage you to check those out.
So what are these about?
Well, it's about my faith. It's about Christianity.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
okay.
see.
and I don't want you guys to not hear that before you walk away. It's definitely about Christianity, but watch it and see what you think. And
No, it's not gonna be the first time, you know.
it's like
It's not gonna be the first time, because you know, as an individual, I think anybody should, you know, do his own research.
Absolutely.
About
On the
what's
faith,
true,
right.
about what's
Yeah.
true in this world we live in.
Yep.
And what you're doing, I really respect.
Well, I
So,
appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate
that's
that.
good for you, yeah.
Because
nice
I
to-
think 95% don't care. You know?
Yeah.
Well, here's the Fazl.
Yeah.
Fazl, did I get it right?
Yeah.
And Luma and Abdul-la.
Yeah.
So, are you guys all related?
Yeah.
We're twins.
We're twins.
We're actually,
Triplets.
No, we're actually
Quadruplets.
quadruplets.
Quadruplets?
Yeah.
But my sister is in Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
back home.
Studying
She's
medicine.
back in Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
studying medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she makes you guys look kind of silly then. So, what now? I just went completely off. No, I appreciate what you're saying. I know that one of the problems that Christianity has is how it's perceived by the Muslims, because oftentimes Christianity is represented by people who use their Christianity as a reason to hate the
Right.
Muslim.
Yeah, I see. No, yeah, that's what I've noticed too. Like, there's things Christians know about, you know, Islam that we've never, like, you know, told. Like, I don't know where they bring this stuff from. You know, like,
Yep.
they say stuff about Islam. I don't know where they bring it from. You know, I think Christianity is the closest religion to Islam. The only you know, conjunction or separation point between us is that you believe, I think, Jesus is God or the Son of God.
We
don't-
not only do we believe he is
just-
God, we do believe he is the Son of God as well. Yes, absolutely.
So the difference here.
This is
that-
fun, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the difference here.
I know
is-
you got stuff to do.
Yeah, the
No,
difference,
that's fine.
The difference here
It's
is
the end of the day.
the difference.
for us.
The difference here is just we believe in him, but we believe in
be a
him
prophet.
as a prophet only.
A
not the
human
Son of
prophet,
God.
yeah.
It's just
The greatest prophet since Muhammad.
the
The greatest prophet since Muhammad.
Yeah.
Not greater than Muhammad,
No,
but
no, we don't
you believe him to be
we don't believe that there is a prophet that is greater than another prophet. We believe
They're all
in-
just messengers.
yeah,
of
we
God.
believe
Yep.
in all prophets. Like
Yeah.
we don't, you don't a Muslim if you don't believe in all prophets. So we believe in all prophets as equal. We don't believe that there is someone as greater than others. Yeah.
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the struggles that in conversations that I've had that many followers of
Yeah.
Islam have is the idea of the Trinitarian nature of God that Christians believe in, and quite frankly, most Christians do a horrible job of explaining it, because then they try to it's like ice, it's like water. You can have water vapor, and you have water as ice and water as a liquid, and that's not a really good way of explaining it at all.
Rationality. I think one time a Christian girl came to me and she gave me a catalog. She was telling me about the Bible and
Mm-hmm.
So she just was trying to talk to me about Christianity, and she was like, Jesus is greater than Muhammad. So I was like, why is that? So she was like, because he's more pure. He doesn't have a father than Muhammad. So I was like, if you use that kind of reason or logic, then there's Adam. He has no father, no mother. Then is he greater than?
And right, and that's one of the,
So
there again.
the way they approach you is kind of
So while in a non-confrontational way, what I would agree with her on is that, in the sense that, well, actually Christianity, I come from, I don't know if you're familiar with some of the different sects of Christianity,
Catholic.
Roman Catholicism versus Greek Orthodox versus Eastern Orthodox and Russian Orthodox. I come from what we refer to as a Reformed tradition, which kind of had its rise in Jan Hus several years before Martin Luther, and then Martin Luther and John Knox and Zwingli out of Switzerland.
Yeah.
So what you will frequently hear us say is that Jesus is the second Adam. Now, that doesn't mean that we believe that Jesus was created, but what we believe, and I think there's a little bit of shared sight in this, is that through Adam, sin entered the world. And I don't know if Islam holds to that view completely, but I know that it's
Adam and Eve.
Yep. And so that through Adam, sin entered into the world, and that it is through Christ that sin is taken not out of all people in the sense of because of Jesus, nobody has any sin, but it is through Jesus that those who have sinned, which is everybody, can be forgiven of their sin. And the reason that we say that is, and this is where our big difference is, and I'm sorry that people have not represented it well to you guys. Honestly, it really breaks my heart, because I love you.
I understand.
And you're like, you are really weird, but I love you as human.
I get what you mean. But yeah.
But don't you think, if you guys believe that Jesus is God, so at the same time he's the Son of God?
Ask it. I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm probably going to screw it up, but ask me anyway.
Why would you think a God would kill himself to wipe the sins of everybody after him?
It just doesn't make sense. He's a God, or he's a son of God, so he has the ability
to
do whatever he wants.
If he is a God.
It just doesn't.
No,
make sense.
and I would, and you are not the only people to say that to me. I run into that with people who have been raised Christian.
Yeah.
Honestly, because they're like, and I've had people tell me that's one of the reasons I'm not even a Christian anymore, is because that makes no sense to me. And it's impossible for us to fathom and comprehend. Go ahead, ask.
You believe that Jesus was crucified?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. We believe that he wasn't crucified.
I know.
We believe that he was brought up by God.
He was about to be crucified.
But God made someone look like him.
I've heard frequently Judas.
That's what we believe in.
Yep. And I know that, and while I would dispute that, it's not going to be a reason for me to look at you and say, well, you're just completely wrong and we can't have this conversation. I would dispute that. Now, this goes back to the Adam thing. The reason why we refer to Jesus as the second Adam or the greater Adam is not because he's actually just like Adam. We don't believe he was created, but the reason we teach that is because, or we use that terminology, is because he did what Adam couldn't do. and he did what no man could do.
He healed people. He can bring people back to life.
Well, which actually, in the early days of the Christian church, we see a lot of people who, what we refer to as the apostles, especially, we see the apostles spending a lot of time healing people. So it wasn't the healing in and of itself that set them apart. In fact, even Paul, in the New Testament scriptures, have a good day.
Ken.
Yeah, hello.
You haven't gotten lost yet.
No, I might though before I leave. Have a good day. How do I want to say this? In the early days of the scriptures, or we're watching the Christian scriptures being written, what we see is there's even a reference to how someone was brought back from the dead through the touch of Paul. Now, it wasn't Paul himself who did it; it was God working through Paul. You know, and so what set Christ apart in Christian theology, what sets Christ apart from all other people, and there again, I know this is where we differ, is not just that he was a great prophet, not just that he was a great teacher, because we see him referred to in the scriptures, oh, you know, rabbi, or teacher, or you're a great man, and I'm paraphrasing and using modern English, but what we see him, he refers to himself as God. In the Hebrew, there are two words basically. It says ego eimi, and he refers to himself, and that's actually the Greek. I believe that's the Greek. Not 100% positive. Don't try and pin me down on that one right now.
Okay.
But in the New Testament, what we see is they ask him who he is, and he says, "I am." He doesn't say "I am so and so." He says "I am" to the Jews, to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes at that time. And their instant reaction wasn't to say "you are who," was to be immediately angry at him and ready to stone him. And that's because in that saying he referenced back to Moses' interaction with God at the burning bush, when Moses says to God, "Who should I say," to Yahweh, he says, "Who should I say is sending me?" Because, and quite frankly, there again I'm going to paraphrase, what you just told me to do is completely insane.
Yeah, people won't believe.
People are not going to believe. And all God says to Moses basically is, tell them I am sent you. And that was ego eimi. And so when the Pharisees and the Sadducees asked Jesus, "Who are you?" he says, "I am, ego eimi." And they go completely crazy with anger because he declared himself God at that point. Not like he declared himself so now he is God, but what he was saying is, I am God and I have been from the beginning. In the book of John, we read, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word is with God." And that is John writing about Jesus because Jesus had spent so much time declaring his own deity. And there again, I know we differ on that. But that's what within Christianity, which is what strikes us and brings humility to us, is that he did what no human being could do. He went to the cross, and it wasn't just a physical death. And that's another thing that I wish Christians would get right, quite frankly. And I'm glad that you brought up some of that stuff. Is that Christians don't always explain it well. So too often what we'll talk about is we'll talk about the cross like it's just this thing that happened to Jesus, a physical thing. And what we believe, and you asked, maybe you asked the question about why would God allow himself to be killed or die. And Christians, way too often, they focus, oh yeah, he died on the cross, and then they focus on the torture before the cross, and because Romans were notorious for that. They did that to so many people. It wasn't just Jesus. They beat so many people before the cross, and then when they put him on the cross, there was torture and there was mocking, and that's bad enough. I'm like, you put me like anywhere near a cross without even nails, and I'm going to be like, whatever you want, you know.
Do you know Yusuf Estes?
Yusuf who?
Yusuf Estes.
Estes?
Yeah. You know him?
Man, the name sounds really. He's a Muslim apologist, isn't he?
He was a Christian priest. He was a priest, I guess. And I would advise you to look at his journey to Islam. I just would advise you to look at his
He has many YouTube videos.
Yeah.
You can watch them.
So do you have a pen?
Sure.
Can I write some? So I'm going to write that down, and then I'm going to write down somebody for you to watch. Will you do that?
Yeah, sure.
Besides the DVD?
Yeah. All right, here you go.
That's so funny. Quadruplets, and I get 3 of them. That's amazing.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which is that why is there so many versions of the Bible? Why isn't there one?
Well, Oh boy, I'm trying to find something I can write on without scarring the DVD. You have to give me just a second. I know you guys got stuff to do. You sure?
Yeah.
Well, here, I'll give you these two and then I'll write on that.
That's good.
Okay.
The church I'm part of actually is just in Albert Lee, so you guys familiar with that?
Yeah, yeah.
And I can write on this?
Yeah,
I know
look back, yeah.
Okay. So if I can figure out how to use your pen. James White. He is
Yeah, I've heard of him.
he is
He had some debates with, you know, Zakir Naik. Zakir Naik is a scholar, Muslim scholar.
yeah. I love James White because he's
He had
willing to
debates
have the
with-
conversations.
No, he had so many debates with Zakir Naik, and you might have, you know, want to watch them. It's also, you know.
I've watched a few of his debates
Yeah.
with some of the different Muslim apologists. Alpha and Omega Ministries. This is my email address. If you guys ever want to shoot me any questions, because I'm not, you know, obviously I'm not a walking Google.
Yeah.
And you're Fazil, right? You asked the question. You asked the question, why are there so many different translations of the Christian Bible? Are you learning Spanish?
No, it's
No, it's just
Spanish history.
Spanish.
history,
Yeah,
Latin American.
Latin American history.
In Latin?
Yeah.
No.
No, it's
Oh,
not
in
Latin.
Spanish?
No, like-
Oh, so there's French.
Yeah, there's.
But it's
Oh.
mainly in English, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I'm like,
Just the back of the paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
um, yeah, was this yours?
No, mine is
That
here.
was
I think
yours.
mine.
Okay,
yeah, I think
there.
mine.
So now you have the cards and you have that.
Yeah.
And seriously, if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask
Sure,
or
sure,
let me
sure,
know. I would encourage
Sure,
it.
sure.
Just when if you email me, identify yourself because
Yeah.
sometimes
I'll
I'm
be
like,
I'm the one who met you at the. My name is Abdul-la, so you,
yeah, I should remember. I don't run
Yeah.
into a lot of. Strangely enough, I don't get a chance to talk to a lot of
So
Abdullahs.
can I write you the name of the?
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna do that too.
You can. Yeah, I can use this card if you want.
Yeah, write it on there and.
I guess the video is.
How do you
it's
write it?
called, let me just check the video out. The name of the video.
As far
How do you write Estes?
ESTES.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
As far as the varying translations of the.
Yeah, from darkness to light. The name of the video is From Darkness to Light.
One of the things that and a lot of people are afraid of this question because they don't know how to answer it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, thank you very
Yeah.
much, I really appreciate that, sir. One of the things that I love about the Christian scriptures is that even with, so like my preferred translation is the English Standard Version. And there are Christians out there who are like, you can't read anything but the King James, which is, of course, sounds like you're reading Shakespearean plays all the time, which it's beautiful, but when you're trying to understand Old English and all you speak is modern American
No,
English.
sure. See, you know, I'm the type of guy who's like really rational. I use complete sense, and I've
Much
looked-
rational thought actually rose out of the Arabic scholars.
Yeah,
And
I've really looked into, you know, a lot of religions, and I've watched a lot of videos for Christian scholars and Muslim scholars and
Yep.
even other religions, you know, and I found that, like, you know, there's a lot of I can't mention to you specifically, but there's a lot of contradictions in the Bible. I can't, you know, mention specifically, but I can email you or the verses and the book or the Bible, which is, for example, where it says, for example, the vegetations were created before the sun.
yeah, you'll have
Such
to.
stuff, you
yeah,
know?
you'll have to email
It
me.
doesn't make sense
You have
how-
to, you have to
Yeah,
email
I'll
those to me because.
specifically, and like, how does vegetations, you know, come before the sun, like, you know, such stuff. And it says, for example, that God created the world in 6 days, and it says specifically a day is 24 hour, like the day is 24 hours. So scientists say that, you know, the world wasn't created only in 6 days, which is each day is 24 hours. You know, days sometimes means, you know, a long period of time. It's not 24 hours. So such stuff, it doesn't make sense, you know, like that's you know why I can't somehow, you know, see some parts of Christianity unrational.
There's actually a school of thought within Christianity that addresses a little bit of what you're saying, which is called, it was referred to as presuppositional apologetics. And presuppositional apologetics starts off by understanding that every single person comes to all religion, but specifically in addressing Christianity, every single person comes to Christianity with a presupposition. Either there is a God or there isn't a God. And so we would be united in looking at people and saying, yes, there is a God. Okay, so then the depth of that acknowledgement then comes from, okay, now what has God said and done to reveal himself? And that's where the tricky part comes in, because there will be scientists who say, yeah, there's a God, but he didn't create the way Christianity, or even to some degree, because I know that a lot of the creation story is also the same within Islam.
Right.
And
there's a lot of similar stuff.
Yeah, there's
because we believe, we believe at one point of a time that the Bible was the correct guidance. It was the perfect guidance for all human beings.
Well, the Quran refers to us as people of the book.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And then with time, when Jesus died, people started, playing and changing the things in the Bible.
I understand.
That's what we believe, and that's why there is a lot of versions of the Bible. For the Quran, for example, there is only one. There is only one universal, book in English, in French, in Spanish. It's all the same. So we believe.
And the best way to read it is in Arabic, correct?
At one point of a time, Bible was the right book, but with time, as I told you, it has changed. So.
And I am you. And this is not a brush off. I really don't mean it that way. I would love to engage in that with you. And so any of you feel free, or together.
Sure.
Feel free to email me some of those, and we can discuss those. Seriously, I mean it. I would love it. I love anything that challenges me to grow deeper in my own faith and to help other people understand it.
Actually help to go deeper.
Exactly. You know better what your faith is.
Right.
Yeah.
And you understand people more. Yeah.
And it also helps me then too, because then I know how to have these conversations without being offensive. Because there again, like I said, I know oftentimes, unfortunately, that there are a lot of people who claim to be Christians who will look at anybody who's clearly coming from a Muslim background and automatically go, oh, they're my enemy.
Yeah.
And what God has commanded of the Christian is to love, even if, and I don't see you guys as enemies, please don't hear that.
Yeah. We know. Yeah.
But even if I were to look at somebody and say, because they're not a Christian, we're opposed, therefore we're opposed, because we're opposed, we have to be enemies. Bible still turns around and tells me to love my enemies in the same way that God has loved me.
We have the same thing.
Same
there's
thing.
Our religion verses that say,
actually, our religion tells us to engage with people who are different from us, not Muslims, because for people who don't know what Islam is, it's not their fault if they think it's
the hardest people for me to talk to? Christians. Honestly, the hardest people for me to talk. I had a conversation probably about an hour before I ran into you guys with a young man who grew up Christian, and when I got to what we refer to as the gospel, in the Greek, the euangelion, which means the good news. When I got to the good news portion of the best part of the gospel for Christians, he got up and walked away. It was like he didn't want to hear it, and I'm like, how as a Christian can I sit here and be talking to you, another Christian, two Christians talking, and you should rejoice when I say we believe that our God, the second person of the Trinity, Jesus Christ, came and lived a perfect life. We call that active obedience. Like he did everything we couldn't do. I'm talking to another Christian. He did everything you couldn't do. Everything you couldn't do, he did. And he did it so well that his reward was to go to the cross and die for your sins and face the wrath of God. And you want to get up and walk away. Right. And then here I sit and I talk to three Muslim siblings of all things, and you're like, oh no, let's talk. In fact, how long you got?
Right.
So that's I know you.
We have some stuff to do.
No, absolutely. I'm glad that you guys stopped. And there again, I know. So
let's get an email if you have any questions.
Oh, please do. And I am like, I'm ready to be challenged. I may not always have the answer off the top of my head.
I know that, yeah.
So there's way too much to know.
That's
so
true.
you guys have a great day. Thank you.